Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to remove some serrations from a pocket knife. This was one my dad gave me and he wasn't a fan of the serrations, so we're just going to go ahead and remove them. The first thing we need to do is to remove the thumb stud. This can get in the way while we're grinding and we don't want to accidentally grind it away. So we're going to grab 2 pairs of pliers and try to get it off without damaging it. Now that we have the thumb screw removed, we're going to put it in a plastic bag, set it off to the side, that way we don't lose anything. As you can see here, the blade has been hollow ground. What I want to do is grab one of my contact wheels and see which one it best fits to. Looks to be a 10-inch, so this is what we're going to use to refinish this blade. We're going to load in the 10-inch contact wheel into our Brodbeck 2x72, and we're going to start off with a 80 grit belt. First thing I'm going to do is make a little contact, make sure that our wheel is the right size, and take the serrations off. I am using the corner of the wheel and holding the blade perpendicular to the belt to cut these teeth down without removing too much of the edge. Now that I got the teeth knocked down, I'm going to grind on the primary bevels to get them to match on each side. Now we're going to work on the other side to get everything to match the first side. It's actually really nice that the primary bevels on this blade were painted, so that way I kind of easily could see, where I ground, where I haven't ground. So what we're trying to do is just continue to reshape those bevels, get those serrations out, and work our way down the blade. As we continue to work those bevels, we want to make sure that we watch our heat on the blade. We don't want anything heating up too much and ruining the temper. Everything on the blade I've kept completely cool to the touch, making sure that if need be, I dip it in water to keep it nice and cool. Now we're going to bump up to a 120 grit belt so we can go ahead and smooth all of our scratches out from the 80 grit. Now we're taking the 120 grit belt and smoothing out the work we just did, removing the serrations, and now we're just taking everything and trying to blend it to make it look as stock as possible. Here I'm trying to be very careful to not overheat the tip. Very easy to do, constantly checking, making sure that it's not too hot. Now that we've got all of our 80 grit scratches taken care of and blended everything with a 120 grit belt, we're now going to switch to our 240 grit game changer belts. These things are absolutely a game changer. That's exactly why we named them that. They take your hand sanding down to next to nothing. Typically what I'll do is run up a grit higher on the machine before I start hand sanding. So for example, if I'm going to do a hand sand at 600, I'll take it up to 800 on the machine using the game changer belts, and then basically go back for 10 to 15 minutes with my 600 grit, and then I'm finished. We have several makers out there who told us it's reduced their hand sanding by about 75%. For this blade, I'm really not planning on hand sanding it too much. My dad just wanted the serrations out, nothing fancy. So we're just going to take this one up to the 240 grit and leave it at that. Here's a look at the 240 grit. One thing I like about a hollow grinding is it makes it really easy to kind of lock in onto the wheel, get a really smooth grind. A lot of people seem to get intimidated by it, but I can tell you it's quite easy. as you know, the more you do it, the more practice, you can really get a feel for, you know, locking that bevel in on the wheel and getting a really nice clean grind. Now I'm using the corner of the wheel to even up the ricasso with the edge of the blade, make sure that doesn't stick out past it so it's easier to sharpen. After the 240 grit game changer, I'm going to use a ultra fine non-woven belt, basically just to get everything at, you know, a nice uniform finish on the bevels. One thing I would like to point out with the non-woven belts is they definitely like to grab anything sharp, any edges. Make sure that you grind with your edge pointed downward rather than upward, safety, so that way nothing gets grabbed and thrown or cuts the belt or anything like that. As you can see, it gives you a beautiful, nice satin finish. Made a little oops when I was using the non-woven belt. I actually went over a little bit when I was trying to clean out the plunge lines. So now I'm gonna come back and put my knife vise in. As a Trojan horse knife vise. Really, really handy vise. I found that if you attach it to a tooling arm and plug it right in your grinder, it gives you a good working height as well as a really sturdy mounting point for your vise. Now we're gonna put the knife into the knife vise. I really like the adjustability of these vices. Kind of holds just about any shape. Even this handle here, it's got a clip on it rather than taking it off. I found it works well, you know, just leaving it on it inside the vise. What we have here to do our hand sanding are EDM stones. I heard about these from Niels Vanderberg. He said that they're excellent for hand sanding. I thought I'd give them a try. This will be the first time I try them. Let's see how it goes. We're going to start with a 120 grit EDM stone. When I hand sand, I like to apply a little bit of WD-40 as a lubricant while I'm sanding. Now we're going to rotate the blade and do the other side. Add a little more WD-40. Now that we're finished hand sanding, it's time to sharpen. We're going to start with a 120 grit belt on the Brodbeck Pirate Sharpener. Alright, so as you can see, we have a blunt edge here, done purposefully. Make sure we have enough support material, backing the edge, making sure that it's supported. So now we're going to go with our 120 grit belt and begin our secondary bevels. The goal while you're sharpening is to make sure that you keep the edge perpendicular to the belt and you're holding it at the same angle every time. You can see here at the very edge, a burr is starting to develop, which is exactly what you need in order to get a nice sharp edge. Check out that nice beautiful burr. Now that we have our edge defined and a burr started, we're going to start polishing the edge using a 240 grit game changer belt. They're really, really great for sharpening. For the 240 grit and finer belts, I typically like to slow the machine down below 50%. Now I'm running about 40% on the machine. From this angle here, you can really see the burr popping up on the edge. As I make each pass, you'll see it looks like the edge of the blade gets highlighted. That's the burr actually going back and forth on the edge as I polish. After the 240 grit, we're going to jump up to a 800 grit game changer. I've found that you can skip a few grits in the progression and you still get a really, really sharp, good working edge. One of the biggest advantages of the Brodbeck Pirate Sharpener is the 1-inch wide belt. It really helps, especially for smaller blades or blades that have a lot of curve to them. Allows you to sharpen the area you want without having the edge of the belt get in the way and cause any damage. Now I've put on the leather strop on the machine. This is another huge advantage. With the smaller strop, they run a little bit better than the 2x72 strops. Now I'm working on actually taking the burr off, polishing that edge down to a very, very fine point to where the burr actually peels off of the edge. I like to do the stropping on the platen of the sharpener. I find it just gives you that little bit of extra support along with the cushion of the belt, able to refine your edge and get it truly sharp. Now I've got all of the burr removed and the edge is finished. One of my favorite uses for U-line catalogs is to check to make sure that my edges are cutting nicely. Not only do they cut smoothly through the paper, but the one thing that you're really checking on is, are you slicing the paper or are you tearing the paper? So as you can see here, I'm getting super smooth, nice clean cuts, and the paper is not tearing. Let's see if it shaves. Yes, it does. And last but not least, we're going to put the thumb screw back in, making it easier to open. There you have it, all finished. The blade itself has a nice factory look to it. I was able to get all the serrations out without taking too much of the edge away. I was originally thinking it was going to end up looking more like a recurve, but this has a really good straight edge on it and cuts very nicely. If you like this video, please give us a nice thumbs up and subscribe as well. Thank you very much.